A parliamentary committee hearing turns the tables on a sinister plot to defame the Gupta business family, exposing the lengths to which some have engaged in cloak and dagger tactics to somehow and anyhow defame and incriminate members of the Gupta family. It all started when the opposition economic freedom fighters sounded an alarm over members of the Gupta family being granted early naturalization irregularly. The EFF claimed to have proof and produced 2 letters. In one of the letters, a Home Affairs official allegedly informed the family that their citizenship had not been granted. But the other letter, evidently signed by the then Home Affairs Minister Gupta, was tutored to show that the request for early nationalization had been granted.
DG will come on his capacity as the DG, but the really person that is wanted here is this former Minister of Home Affairs, and then he must explain to us how did he arrive in that decision.
But Minister Gupta rubbished the sensationalized reports with respect to the Gupta family naturalization. He explained that all the processes with the application had been handled in line with the procedures of the South African Citizenship Act.
The issue was, no, you can submit your application later. But there was a fact that the husband already had naturalization, and therefore the wife, you needed to regularize that. So they look at all the facts, and I'm sure the DG of Home Affairs can explain this to you. And having done all of that, they then say, Minister, we recommend that we actually overturn my decision, because it comes to you when the DG has signed. Basically saying, overturn my decision because new facts have come to light. We've reconsidered the matters. That's the whole principle of appeal. It's the same in government as it is in the courts.
In fact, the minister pointed out how it was not unusual for the department to grant naturalization certificates of this nature. He cited examples of how similar courtesies had been extended in the past to prominent businessmen, sports personalities, and executives of multinational corporations.
You will be surprised to know that there are many such decisions. And I'm sure that the Department of Home Affairs will give you relevant information.
Despite Minister Gupta's assurances in a press briefing, opposition MPs refused to let the matter rest. They continued to question why Gupta approved the request after it had been turned down once. The resulting portfolio committee meeting instead left more egg on the face of accusers.
It says that the Indian passports need to be surrendered.
Home Affairs Director General Kuseni Ableni took the opportunity to flag the alleged naturalization letter flashed by EFF to question the Gupta family status. As it turned out, the entire furore was based on simple white lies. Ableni pointed out that the dates on the letter, written by the department's Gigi Hlatshwayo to decline the family's request, was tampered with, a convenient alteration evidently designed to project Minister Gupta's decision to grant the naturalization as irregular.
This letter is not from me. It was circulated in the media. This letter, it says, however, you and your family will qualify to reapply on the 23rd December 2015. But our letter says 2017. This thing is what has been circulating in the media. And we're saying this thing is not what we have.
Moreover, he pointed out the decision to grant naturalization status is taken by a committee and not just an individual. This means that Gupta's approval of the application could not have been a unilateral decision in any case.
Whether figures are subject to scrutiny, the committee which deals with the issues must verify these things. That's why they went to SARS. They went to DTI.
The Home Affairs DG openly slammed the so-called leaked Gupta emails. He said they cannot be used as basis for granting or declining an application.
That no people are implicated on emails and all that. That can't be the basis of a department which is given a mandate statutorily to implement. And I go to the gossips which I'm getting everywhere. I can't. This is South Africa. It's a democratic country and it's got to. I can't just reject your applications. The only thing we should look at is the reasons for granting those valid and they can stand the test. In the white paper, again, I was saying, no, de-link this as permanent residence to naturalization so that you can be in our country for 50 years, but must not be equal to that you must get citizenship.
Despite their so-called evidence being shot down, the opposition refusing to back down, Democratic Alliance and Economic Freedom Fighters MPs calling the Gupta citizenship into question with little regard for facts placed on record.
How you took a corporate entity and a corporate identity and applied it to applicants, in this instance Mrs. Gupta and others, who themselves are not company directors of Oak Bay Investments. I would suggest to you, sir, that their reliance on Oak Bay was an incorrect reliance because they were a separate entity. They weren't part of that corporate entity that is Oak Bay. They weren't even company directors.
But the Director General, quick to rebut the opposition's antics, factually explaining the processes that were followed to allow members of the family naturalization.
There is an assumption which now says we must believe that the money which is invested by the Guptas can only come from AJ. I don't know. The family, the first person who came here is the mother. And I'll be wrong if I can think that if I am rich, my richness can only come from me as the son. So what I'm trying to explain here, Chair, in this thing is to say that business is of that family. No minister would just sit and write a letter. A minister is advised by his or her lieutenants, which in this case, the last one is the DG. Mr. A. Gupta is not been naturalized. Has not. Is still a permanent residence holder. That letter which is quoted in that submission was not even drafted by the minister. It's drafted by the officials. And now they explain now to them again about that. They have done that. Minister in powers vested on her decided to waive this. The decision maker applied his or her mind. In this case, the minister or the people in the group of the list, we applied our mind. Declaration of renouncement of Indian citizenship, yourself and the family. You are hereby informed that your application for South African citizenship has been conditionally approved. It's not saying has been approved.
Here's a look at how the Department of Home Affairs literally disproved every allegation thrown their way by the opposition. MPs alleged that the Home Affairs letter shows the Gupta application was irregularly processed. But Home Affairs points out that the letter doing the rounds in the media is obviously forged and hence inaccurate. MPs argued that Minister Gigaba unilaterally fast-tracked the Gupta family application for naturalization. But Home Affairs DG pointed out that the minister acted solely on the advice of officials in processing the application. MPs also alleged that Home Affairs did not verify Oak Bay financial figures to support the Gupta application. However, Home Affairs clarified that figures had indeed been verified with the SA Revenue Services and the Department of Trade and Industry. Lastly, MPs went on to accuse former Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba of waiving residential requirements in the Gupta citizenship application. But Home Affairs informed the MPs that it correctly granted the Gupta family naturalization status. As such, they are not in the country illegally. The detailed and point-by-point rebuttal by the Home Affairs Department poking a hole in the opposition's arguments, clutching at straws, the opposition demanding that the authenticity of the letter must be investigated. Despite the Director General's presentation of the facts, they continue to peddle the false narrative for narrow political gains.
People must be whistleblowers, but they must not mislead. They must not mislead the country. And really, if ever we want inquiry in that information that was falsified. It cannot be. It is totally irresponsible because people want to gain some political gains here.
It's very bad now, Chairperson, because our portfolio committee meeting is now used as a campaigning platform by our opposition members.
The opposition also accused of conveniently ignoring the provision that the minister can use his or her own discretion to exercise a waiver on the requirements of naturalization, and that the applicant, in this case, members of the Gupta family, were allowed in law to present exceptional circumstances to the minister when the first application was rejected. African National Congress MPs even slamming the opposition members for pushing a nefarious agenda.
You sometimes create a problem to me when you ask a question that has been clarified clearly, and then we put the question as if nothing has been said.
I'm not sure if I've attacked anyone because I've got a letter here which is a proof that the same question was asked several times before.
Facts and fiction apart, the bigger question is, who tampered with the Home Affairs letter and to what effect? Was the tampering a nefarious design to somehow misrepresent facts and paint the Gupta family in a bad light yet again? Was the ultimate aim to perpetuate the fake state capture narrative to fuel the anti-Gupta and by association anti-Zuma agenda?
If it is that they have captured the country and the state so much, I wonder why the status quo remains and why there's still objection to things like the binding charter, because obviously they ought to be getting everything from the sounds of everything that's being put out there. But I mean, to get back to what this whole thing is about, it's about there was apparently no process followed. This was done outside the ramifications of the law. Now the DG has sat in Parliament and given us the process that was followed. The actual narrative out there is that it appears that one should be saying that the minister just went blasé out of the blue and just decided to write some naturalization letter without any process being followed. There was a process followed, and I believe that the only oversight with it was that he did not table it with Parliament, which can still be rectified. At the end of the day, the question really, from our side, becomes on whose side have the Guptas really been? They've been a thorn in somebody's side, obviously, and they need to be attacked. Now, the reality within this whole thing is that I believe, I mean, I have my own theories. I don't think I would take them public. I think they carried out something that one who's in the corporate sector and has viewed how these things are done, they carried out something that was almost undoable, that was unforeseen, not seen before. And obviously those people are now retaliating, and this is part of the retaliation. The process is there. I don't think the minister could have carried it out in one day. There are those who are going to agree with him and those who are going to disagree with him. Now the question is, where to from here?
The new finance minister, in fact, going a step further, highlighted the assault on his ministry was part of a bigger orchestrated plot to discredit President Jacob Zuma and effect a regime change. Gigaba said the opponents would stop at nothing in their campaign, including using underhanded means to drag his family into the controversy.
I think what we need to do now is to allow the public protector to do the work that she has to do. She will be furnished with all the support she needs and documentation she needs, so that I know that the campaign against us will continue. It's a campaign. It started at the very appointment on the 30th of March. It's a campaign. There are people paid to run this campaign, and they will run this campaign whatever the facts. The issue is not the facts. The truth just stand in the way, inconveniently stand in the way of a good story. So we will remain focused on our work. We will not be dissuaded from implementing our work and focusing on transformation, and we will carry on.
If there's a family or an individual in the country that is here on dubious means, proper investigation must take place. The second thing that needs to be looked at is whether the rules that govern naturalization are correctly applied. The Oversight Committee must then come up and say, these are the number of people that have been naturalized in South Africa over the period from 94 up to now, and these are the processes that have been followed. Therefore, this particular process was flawed.
Some even questioning the alleged hidden agendas behind the opposition's onslaught, calling for progressive forces to unite in defense of the radical economic transformation agenda championed by President Zuma.
It's a real shame that politicians like Julius Malema, the EFF in general, Democratic Alliance can stoop this low to falsify documentation in a process to pronounce the Guptas as non-citizens of South Africa. But I mean, what's worse than this is that how can white people like Steenhuisen standing up and say that the Gupta's citizenship must be called into question. Colonialist land thieves who come into this country and continue to pillage and plunder and want to reject radical economic transformation now want to tell us who must be citizens of this country or this land space. Because the Guptas have shown the ability to go against hegemonic white power in the coal sector and in different other sectors, including the media space. And white people like Rupert and Renwick are not happy, and they've told their bulldogs like Julius Malema to come after the Guptas. They've told people like Steenhuisen from the DA, Ziller, who says colonialism is okay, to come after the Guptas. But these parties like the EFF and the DA continue to collude and work against the black majority. Look, unfortunately or fortunately, what we need to realize is that we are in a war, and we've been in this war for quite some time now. And people like the EFF, the Democratic Alliance, and all those sitting in the Rupert and Renwick camp will come out all guns blazing and use any and every single means, including discrediting your family and destroying your public image in the interest of preserving their wealth. This is the tactics that are going to be, and it's going to be elevated. It's been said numerous times when Minister Sikaba came into office, he needs to have a thick skin. He needs to understand this is going to be his life. He's going to come under attack, and he must be resolute and continue with a radical economic transformation program. And the Guptas have to go through this for some time now, and their families have been attacked. I mean, we know that Minister Brian Molefe, his children were attacked at school. All these ministers and persons who speak or want radical economic transformation, who speak with the president in one voice, who says land expropriation without compensation. All of these people are coming under attack right now. Why is it happening? That's because the running dogs of imperialism like Julius Malema, Steenhuisen, Helen Zille, all these people are coming full force at those who want the return of the land for black liberation. It's going to continue. What we need now is a black bloc. All of us, whether it's the PAC or the Black Management Forum, anyone who speaks for black people, who says they speak for black, must come out strong and defend black people principally against white people.
The naturalization controversy clearly shows how the Gupta family has been caught up in the political crossfire simply because of their association with President Jacob Zuma. The assault on the family is intensifying with each attempt to unseat the president before his term in office expires.
Now, some may agree or disagree with how Minister Gigaba arrived at his decision, but the bigger question becomes, now that he's in this new portfolio, why is it now? Because I believe that this matter was signed into law some time ago. Why now, when he's the sitting finance minister, must this crop up? Is this maybe for other nefarious ends?
Nonetheless, the opposition smear campaign against the Gupta family raises a host of worrying questions. Has the document tampering exposed a desperate conspiracy to paint the Guptas as criminals and Gigaba as captured? Should criminal action not be pursued against those who forged the documents in a conspiracy against the state? Will the EFF Commander-in-Chief Julius Malema explain if he had a hand in doctoring Home Affairs documents? Can the media now see through the orchestrated political campaign and stop acting like PR machinery for the opposition?